Hello and welcome back to the Jackwood Football Podcast. Today we're going to be chatting about February in League One and who else but to call Tom. How you doing, mate?
Who are you going to call?
Tom Chappell.
Good evening. Lovely to see you, as always. How are we?
Good. I feel as though, I always think it's been not long enough until we last spoke. I mean, it feels as though yesterday we were chatting about January. We're already speaking about February, but that's, time, well, in your case, time flies when you're having fun. Not so much at Oxford. I feel as it's dragged on the pitch, but it still does feel quite like a quick turnaround reflection-wise.
Would you believe it? It was actually the 5th of February that we filmed the last one. So it's not even been, it's been 4 weeks. Yeah? 4 weeks? 3 weeks. Something along those lines. Anyway, no one cares about this. Welcome along. Oh, I should say as well, you don't say this enough at the start of your videos, by the way. Subscribe, please. Do it.
We're hoping to get
the next
10,000.
milestone.
Well, 8,000 is the next milestone, and then hopefully 10,000 at some point this year. I've sort of been pushing that narrative so far in 2024. If we could do that, that would be unbelievable. Whether or not that's a target that we can reach, I hope it is.
We can.
I hope it is. It's hard to put timescales and that sort of thing. If you do find value, please make sure you do that. I think it's still about 60% of the people that watch it aren't subscribed. So if you are one of those, please do that and leave a like as well. But most importantly, with these reflections, we bounce off the comment section. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Lots of subheadings to delve into today. Give us your thoughts on each of those because there's lots of talking points. And we're going to do it slightly differently. Same format, but in a slightly different order to get a different feel to it. Because there's a lot to get through and we feel as though we've got to do it in a certain order to make sure we fit everything in. Tom,
massively.
Let's start with some pleasing points because we're not always pleasing on the reflections because there are certain sections, if you like, that aren't so upbeat. But who's impressed us? Because there are some teams that have impressed us, as always. But February, it's no different. There's some teams really finding form at what I would say is now the business end of the campaign.
Yeah, I think it's no coincidence that the sides in the league who've lost the fewest games in Pompey and Barnsley. Pompey were 4, Barnsley was 6, have been the hardest teams to beat and the hardest sides to play against this season. Being hard to beat is great for team spirit. It's fantastic. It is a fantastic base to build from. So there's no surprises that those two teams are doing well. More on Pompey later. It's also quite staggering that really second and third place Derby and Bolton at this moment in time, at the time of recording, at the time that you're watching this, they've lost, well, it depends on when you watch this, but when you watch this when it comes out, they've lost 2 in the last 5, both of those 2 being their most recent 2. Peterborough had lost 4 on the bounce before the weekend, as we know, that big Derby win. We know about Oxford's issues. We're going to hear about that later. You're going to outline them. It's only really Stevenage, Barnsley and Pompey inside that top 7 in League One at this moment in time that are actually in-form sides at the top end. Do you remember Pompey's Christmas and New Year, Jack? You labelled it as the Christmas crumble, quite famously. Some would say that that is what Derby and Bolton are seeing right now, and I think there's still a very good chance that they come through that with flying colours, despite how fans will be feeling in the moment. I'm sure many watching this, so much football to be played, we'll come back to that. Sides that have impressed us, Barnsley, massively, so impressive. They have been all season. Of course, the league's top goal scorer in Devante Cole. They're a very dangerous side. They're just a single loss in 2024, 3 draws in the West. The rest are all wins, which is mightily impressive. It's a little bit of a technical thing, but it's worth pointing out that Barnsley have, in terms of big chances missed across League One, which is obviously goal scoring opportunities that teams don't take. Pompey are top on that metric with 60. Peterborough close behind on 49. Derby and Bolton looking at your mid-40s. Barnsley are 13th in terms of big chances missed, and they're 5th for big chances themselves. That demonstrates a clinical edge, and they're 6th in XG, yet they've scored the joint most in the division. They've got at least a game in hand on everything above them. There is absolutely, everywhere you look, basically, at the moment with Barnsley, there is just praise to be given and plaudits to be just thrown out to them because they thoroughly deserve it. The one thing with me for Barnsley, the big games, right? Last weekend's win at Hopewell against Derby. That probably disproves this point somewhat, but I'm going to say it anyway. In the big games this season, Exeter's a bit of an outlier, with no disrespect to Exeter fans. They usually lose the big games, Barnsley. They lost to Blackpool away, lost at Pride Park, lost at home to Blackpool, lost at home to Pompey, lost at home to Peterborough as well. Change that. That game against Bolton next week is massive. Their run against, they've got Bolton, they've got Pompey, and their run soon. that might not actually be an issue because they don't have too many of the big teams to play, but that steeliness with the big occasions is my only mark against them. It's the only thing you can level against them. They have the opportunity to well and truly put that right on Tuesday, and it wouldn't surprise me if they do. Who have you been most impressed by in February, Wardy?
Quite a few teams. I want to come back to the expected goals, and this is all the beauty of the show.
You love expected goals, don't you?
I do, and I think I understand there's flaws in that. There's flaws in expected goals because I won't go into detail too much, but of course there are different ways of creating chances and different ways of scoring goals. But this is the beauty, I think, of this show. We don't look at our notes too much. I haven't read. I didn't know Tom was going to bring up XG. There's a site called The Analyst, and I don't know if you've heard of it, Tom, but ultimately it breaks down all of the expected goals, the actual goals scored, the shots taken, and there's some really interesting readings. Reading, for example, who are 20th, I've got the 5th highest expected goals, which is, again, really interesting. They create a lot of chances, Reading. And I come back to your point about Barnsley. Their expected goals isn't incredible, really. I have to scroll down quite a lot to find Barnsley when looking at their expected goals. Actually, they're sitting about 7th or 8th. And of course, they're 4th in the league. So it's fascinating. They are extremely clinical. 31.18 expected goals, 46 goals scored. They are outscoring their XG by a long way. And like you said, that comes down to being very, very clinical. So yeah, definitely recommend checking out that website if you want to find out who is outscoring, who's creating loads of chances, who's maybe overperforming in certain areas. The Analyst is definitely the way to go. Maybe a potential video on that, because I think you can tell quite a lot of a season, but also a team and the way they're performing by looking at the different metrics, and XG is one of them. Team sequences is fascinating as well. Pompey are very high up on team sequences. We know the way they want to play and build up. Derby, for example, I won't go into too much of it, but Derby very low on that because we know Derby are slightly more direct. Barnsley as well are slightly more direct. So you can tell a real story from that. Again, maybe a video for another time. It's a great point that Tom brings up about that. Barnsley extremely clinical, or maybe outplaying themselves when you look at the amount and the quality of opportunity that they create. Looking at other teams, and there are other teams for sure. Lincoln. I think we've got to touch on Lincoln, and we've had a bit. Tom will be a nooch on this. There's been a bit of chat on our WhatsApp group over the last couple of hours between me and Jake. Of course, if you didn't know, there's a bit of a wager, a T-Lot wager on the line, £50 for whoever finishes higher, Oxford or Lincoln. For a long time, I thought I was totally safe. I'm still maybe naively confident, but of course, it is much closer than it was a couple of months ago. I mean, only now, quick maths, we're on 57, they're on 51, so currently a 6-point swing, but of course, that's the same number of games played. We've got to play each other again. I think Jake is growing in confidence, but we also know Jake is probably the most house-proud football fan, not just Lincoln fan, you'll ever find. So I'll have to see how his opinions change, but you can't deny the form is there to be encouraged. It's a great run over this month as well. 4 wins in their last 5, and Skubala took his time in implementing the way that he wants his Lincoln side to play, and now we're starting to see that. 2nd in the form table, only behind league leaders Pompey. You can't argue this month has been very good. Do I think they're going to finish higher than Oxford? Of course. To be honest, I couldn't really care if Oxford do finish in the top 6. That'd be phenomenal. If you said to me right now, Oxford finished 6th and Lincoln City finished 5th, which is never going to happen, I probably would take the £50 hit just so Oxford got a chance to compete in the top 6. I can't see that happening. At the moment, Oxford aren't proving enough to say they're going to be in the top 6. That's for another conversation. But looking at Lincoln, they've been phenomenal, and we're starting to see now Skubala and Lincoln grow, I think, simultaneously. If it's this season they provide the greats, it would be one hell of an achievement. But I think they're setting up a great campaign next time around for sure. They're putting in those building blocks already. But a great February. For Cheltenham, very impressed. Tom, you've put on there, Cheltenham a surprise package. I think they're not anymore because of Darrell Clarke. I think Darrell Clarke has got them to a point now where this form isn't a surprise. I think it's a surprise how badly they started and how quickly they've looked like a really, really good outfit under Darrell Clarke. And you look at the position they currently find themselves in. I know they haven't won a game in the last 2, but before that, their run's great. 33 points. Cheltenham have got this relegation fight in their hands, which is unbelievable when you look at where they were after the first 10 games, not winning a game, not scoring a goal in the opening 10, to be in a position where they play 33 games and teams above them outside the bottom 4 have played 35, and there's only a 3-point swing, 6-point swing. It's in their hands. And as a Cheltenham fan, and anybody associated with Cheltenham, I mean, that's remarkable and a fantastic achievement. Like you say there, the top 6 at the moment, not many are in form. Cheltenham have really stood out for me. I think Northampton have sort of plodded along really nicely. Leyton Orient continue to plod on exceptionally well. Blackpool have had some great results and then some diabolical results. There's been a lot of inconsistency in February. I think if there's one word to describe February, it probably would be inconsistency. Not many teams finding rhythm. Lincoln definitely won. Cheltenham definitely won. And a handful of teams, even less than that, currently in the top 6. Of course, let me know your thoughts down below. Lincoln fans, Northampton fans, Leyton Orient fans, and anyone if you feel as though that's a point to disagree on. But a lot of inconsistency in the month of February. But there are teams that we've been impressed with. Looking forward then, Tom. Let's be slightly more negative, and then we'll touch on Pompey and Oxford in slightly more detail. But I think one club, unfortunately, is going to naturally fall in this conversation. Underwhelming. Tom,
we're going underwhelming now as well.
Underwhelming,
crikey.
Then Pompey, but probably, if you don't mind, I think Oxford will probably naturally come up quicker because there's a natural, I think, segue when we speak about this part of the video. Tom, who's underwhelmed you this month? Because, like I said there, lots of inconsistency, and that's probably the reason why there are quite a few teams that could be put up for a mention here.
I'm going to tackle Peterborough and Derby, if you don't mind. 3 points from 5 games in February for Posh. Just that one win in the Derby last weekend, the aforementioned one I've already spoke about. Get this, Jack. Second from bottom Fleetwood of double Posh's points tally from the month, albeit they played an extra game. If you're a Peterborough fan, you're looking at that thinking, oh, my words, that's a little bit alarming. Their finishing's letting them down massively. Ben spoke to me last night about how their pitch hasn't been right. And then as a result, and I'm a bit like, yes, this is a good point. Disruption with not being able to play, postponements, pitch not being great, then you can't finish as a result. Mild argument, but I think there's far more things letting you down than the pitch. They've got to attack March with absolutely everything they've got. I worry that the 4 losses on the bounce there, it hasn't counted them out of the automatic promotion conversation because it hasn't, because actually favours have been done elsewhere for them. Yes, they've nosedived in the sense of not having a great February. There's a very good opportunity for them to come back up with the squad they have, the young, hungry squad they have at that as well. Then also you look at the recent form of Derby and Bolton, which we'll get onto in a minute, which has really helped them out. I do worry about it. There is a world in which they could win every game between now and Pompey's trip up to London Road, which I'm really excited about, and I wouldn't put them past them to do it. And I think they've got the tools at their disposal to do so. Derby, bit of recency bias here for me. I think I watched the I don't think I watched the game. I did watch the game with my dad on Tuesday, and they did deservingly go 1-0 up. At that point, they rested on that. The keeper makes a stupid decision. That's not on Paul Warne, by the way, for the keeper to come out and commit himself as he did. I don't know what's going through Joe Wildsmith's mind there, but certainly not rational thinking. You go 1-1 on the hour mark, then you're thinking, right, chill out a little bit, work the ball, play it around, compose yourself, start to put some moves and runs together. They did the exact opposite, Derby. They capitulated, they put themselves under pressure, and they faced the consequences, and that's what's going to happen. This is the outside looking for me, and forgive me if I'm wide of the mark if you're a Derby fan watching this. They always feel like there's been a little bit of an undertone of perhaps lack of confidence in Paul Warne all season. And at a big club, of course, you're never too far away from disaster mode. And I maybe put it that the panic buttons are in much closer reach than at some football clubs at this level, right? And I get that, and we get that. I suppose it's the sense of the football okay on the eye when it's all going well. You've mentioned your stats there. It is a proper gut-wrencher when you're losing the game or the game's going against you. It's a really difficult watch on the eye. Long way to go for Derby. But yeah, not much to shout about in terms of February. Same with Peterborough. But I still think the quality in these sides means that they're definitely got the capability of coming up trumps. I'm assuming you're going to talk about Bolton and then Oxford.
Yes. And that's why you have to put Bolton in that, because I can tell you in the last 5 games, their form has almost mirrored each other. In their last 5, both have lost 2, won 2, and drawn 1. Which isn't horrendous, to be honest. It's not horrendous form. It's not diabolical by any stretch. Is it title-winning form? No, it's not. Is it top 2 form? This year it probably is. And I think that says a lot about this league. 66 points after 35 games.
Not amazing, is it?
The standard is pretty poor compared to previous years. And we got a little bit of heat from Derby and Bolton fans last month for not maybe giving them as much credit as we should have done, and maybe focusing on a side that are top of the table and still are top of the table. And that's fair enough. I think that's the point in these reflections, is fans can give their thoughts and we can bounce off and we can chat about and almost reply to them in a footballing manner. The issue I've got with Derby and Bolton is they've absolutely crumbled when they had games in hand, and they've had opportunities to chase Pompey, and ultimately they won't want to hear it, but they've let themselves down a little bit. They've let themselves down because they had a chance, and when Pompey had games in hand, they took those chances. And on the reverse now, where Bolton and Derby are chasing them, they have not taken that opportunity. And I can understand Bolton frustration. I can understand Derby frustration last month, where maybe they were really in the mix. And of course, they're still in the mix. And let's be honest, I still believe Barnsley are hunting them down. There's a good chance one of Derby and Bolton still get promoted automatically. And that says quite a lot about where we are and where League One finds itself this season. But yeah, I worry about Ian Evatt in the last couple of games. The standard of football has been very poor. The style of play, which has and has proven to provide great goals, but also great games and great results, just hasn't really worked. Blackpool, of course, a red card didn't help Wigan. It just didn't. It was just passive. It was slow. It was sloppy and not to the standard. But to still be in the chat for top two after those last two results and performances, regardless of red cards that probably should have been given and have been rescinded, the performance levels just haven't been good enough and not acceptable, but it still might be enough. And that says so much about where this division finds itself. I think you're right about Posh. It's been a pretty rubbish February for them, but again, they're still in the mix, and to lose 4 games on the bounce and still be 5th and no one's really worried about them finishing, dropping out of the top 6 says 2 things. 1, not many sides are in form below them or above them. And also the second point, they've been very good this season. So they've been able to sort of deal with that. They probably have taken them out of the top 2 chat, but they're still in a solid position in the playoffs. But again, I think it all comes down to sort of where this league is. Oxford have been disappointing. A lot of draws in there. If you actually look at our points return, it's not great. Not many defeats in February. One in the last game against Leyton Orient, but generally quite a few draws and a win in there. Look, for a mid-table team, it's fine. For a team pushing in the top 6, it's not good enough, but we're still only 2 points off 6th. Again, that says a lot about sort of where this league is. Of course, Leyton Orient finding form, Blackpool sort of being there or thereabouts, still don't quite think they're at the level, but Lincoln in great form. That's where the pressure lies. Again, we're disappointed. The style of play isn't clicking. The performances aren't coming. The results definitely aren't. But again, consistency, a massive problem. We say it probably for the last 2 months, Tom. The biggest consistency for Oxford is inconsistency, and that remains the same. It's very up and down, performance-wise and results-wise, but we're still 7th. And yeah, off-the-field matters that we won't go into for this style of video are probably affecting us. A massive change in the middle of the season still. I think there's a bit of a come down from that. Let's see where March is. Cambridge, again, and this links on to the manager chat that we'll have one, that we'll speak about in a minute. Neil Harris leaving. I mean, that's a massive blow for Cambridge, and we've seen since his departure, results haven't been great. 3 defeats on the bounce since Neil Harris has gone. That drags them back into it. And we probably said a few weeks ago or last month, Cambridge are probably out of that group of teams. One sudden switch in manager and one big significant switch off the field out of their control, and they're probably still back in that conversation. A good point to speak about the relegation battle, Tom, if you could. I don't know if you've got the league table in front of you, or I'm sure you're fully aware of who's in that mix. We had a chat with Gab on his show yesterday, and I'd like to sort of have the similar conversation to you, or with you rather. Carlisle, are we fair to say they're down?
Yeah, and they have been for weeks. Yeah. Sorry,
Fleetwood, has Nappers got any hope?
No.
Port Vale, Darren Moore, wouldn't say that's been a huge bounce.
No, but that is still, that screams to me a little bit of, who was it you were talking about that took a minute or two to get, well, I mean, that screams of me, and we haven't mentioned them yet, but that screams of Nathan Jones, Charlton coming in, taking a handful of games to get themselves sorted. Darren Moore, I think is going to need to happen quite quickly, but jury's still out for me on that one. But they're probably down if he doesn't sort it out sharpish. Reading, no.
Reading, no. The points deduction in recent weeks or recent days as we're recording isn't helpful, but again, credit to how good they've been. Because they've been so good, they can almost, I mean, it's disgusting the way that football club has been run off the field, out of their control. But a point deduction, and we're sat here going, they've been so good they can get away with the point deduction. It's not how football works. It's not how football is and should be, but that's the way that football club is currently being run, and it's out of order. But they've got themselves in a place now where they can afford a deduction, which is obviously not ideal, but ideal at the same time. That's how they've reacted, because they've been proactive in the results. Cheltenham, it was all accidentally missed Cheltenham because we've already spoken about them, but in a sandwich between Port Vale and Reading at the moment. Good form, but it's in their hands, Tom. Cheltenham, if there is one team to get out of that bottom four, is it Cheltenham?
Imagine being in a Port Vale and what was it? Port Vale and
Reading sandwich.
Reading sandwich. Nice. If you're asking me for a prediction, I think it's the three that are at the bottom. So I think it's Port Vale, Fleetwood, and Carlisle. And then I think it's one of Burton, Shrewsbury, or Cambridge. I don't think Reading or Cheltenham are going down at the current rate of climb.
Sorry, Charlton are also in that list.
Charlton are fine. Charlton will be okay.
Yeah. So you're saying...
Charlton will go on a run now and win a lot of games now. They will. Yeah. I can see Alfie May, once he scores one, he always scores a handful. He's got them playing. That belief, take that from... Mate, Pride Park literally gives you that an extra 5 and 10% that goes on for weeks.
Yeah.
Genuinely, they'll be fine. I think it's one of Shrewsbury, Cambridge, and Burton. If Cambridge sort themselves out with the incoming manager, don't know who that's going to be yet at the time of recording. We're led to believe it might be someone from, I don't know if I saw there was a National League South manager rumoured today. I don't know if you saw that as well. But Barry Corr is clearly not, he's a very much caretaking, etc., etc. And we had it under Simon Bassey a year and a bit ago, where we lost every game under our caretaker manager. So there's no issues with caretaker managers there, but that interim period's difficult. And if they can stop throwing games away, which they're not throwing games away, they're getting beaten. But if they can start picking up points from somewhere while that interim continues. Shrewsbury, different beast under Paul Hurst, I know, but they're still not a great side. And then Burton,
really good, really bad.
Well, Burton, Nappers are saying to me last night that Burton fans are saying that that's one of the worst they've been on Tuesday against Carlisle. And for you to be terrible at this moment in the season is not a good
against Carlisle.
Against Carlisle, who have been down for weeks. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'm the same. I said last night, weirdly enough, the two teams closest to the bottom four in Charlton and Reading are the most safe, which is so weird. But that's just, momentum is key, right? It's so key in football. Reading have proven that backs against the wall, they are phenomenal. Charlton have proven under Nathan Jones, they're an animal. And we said, and I know you don't like doing it because of Nathan Jones. And actually, he's been quite nice about Paul. I think he's actually played it so well. His time at Southampton was so bad. I think he'll say it, but I don't think he's too bothered about Pompey. He wasn't there long enough to even gain any sort of connection with that football club. So I know you don't like talking about him too much, but in terms of what he's done
us a massive favour on Tuesday, mate. So I've always loved Nathan Jones. Yeah, I'm happy to go back on that. Yeah, that's fine.
And what he's done to a side that were broken. Like, let's be honest, they were broken. They were a team that were in a place that was a disaster. He reminds me so much. He's done better, actually. He's done better than what Liam Manning did when he came in at Oxford in the relegation battle last season, I personally think. I know Liam Manning kept us up, but it was still a little bit... We didn't have to play Pompey, Bolton and Derby back to back for a start, and he's done that, and he's got a return of 5 points, which is just incredible. I think we said it last time, or I might have said it on a roundup. One result, I think it's going to be one result that just gets them going. They were waiting for it. They lost their first game against Reading. They drew to Lincoln, looked a little bit rubbish. One result, and it was a 3-3 at Bolton. And that was the kickstart. That was like, I know we drew that game, and I know we drew after that against Pompey, but a draw at Bolton, a draw against Pompey, and then to beat Derby in that manner, that's all of the confidence they need. And I'm totally with you. I think what he's done there, he's still feeling out the squad. He's dropped Alfie May and put him on the bench. They just brought him on and he scored. Massive calls. He's made some massive calls, and he's got some incredible talent that we didn't even know were there. Thierry Small comes in, and he's now one of the best left backs, on form in the league. again, little details that I think he's just shown.
Thierry Henry.
Yeah, one of my finest pieces of work.
That was good.
Again, it's the details that he's getting spot on. So fully behind Charlton. I really hope they stay up. It would have been a bit of a disaster if they got relegated, because there is some serious dross in this league, to be quite frank. And Charlton, look at that squad. That they were dross, but there's some great talent there. And I think the summer's going to be fascinating. I can see a huge turnover in playing staff at Charlton, because that squad is bloated, and also clearly they've got themselves in a tricky situation. It might have been an upturn now, but that squad still is it's not a Nathan Jones team, is it?
And he's already hinted at that, hasn't he, in pressers pre and post match, that he's got a big squad. Just one more thing on Nathan Jones. I know we've got loads more to move on to. The biggest thing for me, he's reminded a good group of players how good they can be. Yeah. That's all he's needed to do, really. He's got the squad there. I know you've mentioned it's not his squad. He's got enough talented players to put on the shows that they have done in the last 3 games. So, yeah, results will come now. As I said to you just now, I think they will go on a run now. They've got, if you look at it, they've got quite a favourable fixture list to come. I think they'll be winning games, and they'll be more than fine this season now.
Those last 3 games are make or break, and it was, I'd say, 80% chance of them breaking, and they've hit a 20% chance of success, and and that's kept them up. I think personally, the last 3 games have kept them up.
Oh, he's gone big early.
I've gone
big early.
They're not getting. They won't go down. I'm a true believer of that. Let's move on then to Pompey, because we've got to chat about them and discuss how their month has been. We've done really well, I think, touching on the majority of clubs so far. And Pompey, who remain top of the table. Look, people will moan. They'll say that the Pompey chat last month was hefty. We've taken
only 1 or 2 were moaning, Wardy. Everyone else loved it.
And I bet they're back as well. And you know you are. I bet you're back. I bet you won't be back because you're Bolton or Derby fans that
exactly. None of them are watching, mate.
They won't be watching. We understood. And look, can you blame us? Pompey still top of the table. I mean, look, it's a fine position, and I'd say, Tom, now you won't want to hear it. It's your league to lose.
Oh, I'm fine with hearing that. I'm fully on board with that. I thought you were going to say something else. You're not going to say something else, are you? Not yet.
No, not yet.
No. We've had private conversations off camera. You're not privy to those, but you can maybe. Your mind will probably take you to what the kind of thing we were talking about.
Yeah. I think they're now you're thinking about what those conversations are about.
Well, it could have been anything, couldn't it?
Could have been anything.
We did talk about a lot today as well, so it could have been any of those things that we had on the agenda. It's another really strong month for Pompey, remaining unbeaten throughout February, taking 13 points from 15 is really pleasing. I had a tweet drafted, right? Had we beat Charlton, which we didn't deserve to, by the way, I'm not saying we should have done. Had we beaten Charlton, that would have been the first time we've won every game in February for 27 years. So I was really hoping that we'd do that. And that's a 4-0 exclusive stat that I plucked during the week last week that nowhere else would have had. And it's just really annoyed me that we didn't. But anyway, just 2 blemishes on an otherwise faultless run since that Leyton Orient dour disaster afternoon in what feels like a very long time ago. And our run in February is completely integral to that. 3 goals conceded all month. Just the 12 goals scored, Wardy, which is mightily impressive. The point at the Valley on Tuesday following the midweek fixtures that we've already touched on, that turns into an even more valuable one in my view, and we've already discussed that. Paddy Lane and Kamara have been absolutely exceptional. Yes, a quiet afternoon for both of them at the weekend, granted. I think when you stick 3 men on Paddy Lane, it's always going to be difficult for him. 4 of Paddy Lane's 11 goals and 2 of his 6 assists this season came in February. That the same pertains to Abu Kamara. 4 of his 6 assists came last month as well. This month at the time recording, last month when you see this. Bear in mind he only played 15 minutes against Northampton. His only full 90 was last weekend. That's brilliant. Another shout out for a man at the other end of the pitch, Connor Ogilvie. He's come back into the side. He's been imperious defensively. He's been awesome, and he offers and improves us so much going forward as well. He's exceptional. We discussed it partly on the most recent T-Lop, and I don't want to revisit that conversation entirely because if you're listening to this, there's a very good chance that you're a T-Lopper as well, or you might go on to hear it. I'd definitely divert you to there once you finish with us here to have a listen. Breaking at speed and punishing teams has become a real byproduct of Pompey wins of late. The good team-orientated goals with a lot of build-up, the strikes from range, the variety of different players scoring them, that's displaced the tap-ins and over-reliance and Colby from a few weeks and months ago that I remember discussing on these various different reflections. And I mentioned the dimension change has happened just at the right time, and I completely stand by that. We do just have to keep taking things one game at a time. And I know that's a sort of a John Messino press conference kind of thing to say. Keep this squad together. No injury dramas, please. No shockers of games. That's such an important baseline for us to achieve what we want to achieve. Bottom line, the very slight pessimist in me, and we need to do this for balance and objectivity, Jack, as we always strive for on your channel and mine, we're probably a Marlon Pack injury away from finishing 5th. Now, if you're not a Pompey fan watching this, you're probably thinking, what on earth is he on about as he lost his head? If you are a Pompey fan, you can probably see where I'm coming from, but you probably sat there thinking that is a tad bit negative. We'll leave that one there. We've had the hanging fruits of promotion before now. 2018-19 is an example that screams in my head. We've royally thrown it away in the past. The latest midweek round of fixtures has cleared some fog in the rearview mirror for us now. And we go into these massive final 11 games, the first of which I will see you for on Saturday. Your face.
Sorry, are you going into a chat?
We're not going. Are you going yet?
No, because you ended. What did you say? Good chance for a preview.
Go on then.
I'm going now. No, I'm recording now. I was just confused as you were just telling me some context I didn't want to hear. As for surprise package, now I don't know about you. There's no standouts here because there's been a lot of inconsistency. And
have we got to the point of the season where there aren't any surprises anymore because we know what teams are like? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe, and especially this month where nobody has necessarily done something. Charlton and Cheltenham, who I think we've already mentioned, are the biggest surprises. We didn't think Charlton were going to pull off what they've done with their fixture list, and they've done a great job of doing it. Cheltenham have been phenomenal, got their relegation fight in their hands. Lincoln, maybe. I don't think we expected them to be as good, but again, they've got a good squad there. It was just a question, are they going to click this season? And it looks as though whether they achieve something incredible or not, they've got themselves in a great place.
Have we mentioned Northampton?
Northampton, I mentioned with Leyton Orient earlier. They're sort of plodding along nicely. They're still in a great place. Stevenage, not a great month, but the 2 games right at the end, 6 points. It's fantastic. And they got themselves in 6th. And again, season state, they're still... They don't surprise us anymore. But at the start of the season, after 34 games, would we thought they'd still be in 6th? Probably not. Yeah, that says a lot about where they are and what they've done and how good they've been. But yeah, I mean, my biggest surprise to come out of all this entire month was Neil Harris leaving Cambridge. And of course, that wasn't
that could be a surprise package. Yeah. Could be.
He's now managed in League 2, League 1, and the Championship in one season. I mean, it's quite impressive.
Good for the CV, but not great for Cambridge.
Is it good for a CV? Because I don't think it gives him a great... I mean, loyalty...
Variety of
clearly.
job roles.
Yeah, loyalty maybe not so much. I don't think Cambridge fans... I mean, he's got them out of the relegation fight to a certain point. Is it further
he's
away?
Millwall as well, isn't he? Don't forget that.
Yeah, and there's context to where he's gone. Do you blame him? Reminds me a little bit of Manning leaving. He's sort of going, yeah, fair enough. You've gone to the Championship. Could you have shown a bit more loyalty? Let's be honest. Cambridge didn't need to give Neil Harris that job after being sacked by Gillingham when they gave him that opportunity, and he has sort of ditched him at the first opportunity. I think Millwall being that job is a massive factor within that. But yeah, that's probably the biggest surprise. Player of the month then, Simon. We haven't done manager of the month yet, have we?
We haven't.
I think it's pretty clear who it's going to be. So I'm doing manager of the month. Yeah,
I'm going to go with Michael Skubala at Lincoln City. The belief and the fight he's brought reminds me of a certain man who came in and won pretty much everything in Lincolnshire with his brother, Jack. I don't know if you remember who that was. But the belief and fight instilled everyone associated with Lincoln at what is a massively crucial stage of the season. He's getting the best out of these players. He's instilled a real spirit about them, and spirit's another buzzword of a predecessor. Tuesday night, easily the best they've played under Michael. Probably one of the club's best performances as a team of the season as well. So our manager of the month, Jack, is Michael Skubala.
I'd agree with that. I think he is mine too. If I had to put some more names forward, I think naturally Pompey have done a great job. You'd have to put John Messino in that hat. But I also think as well, Neil Collins at Barnsley deserves great credit. He's somebody that should be mentioned. But I would go with Skubala. He would be my manager of the month too. To run up then, so I'm the final one. Player of the month. Always has its flaws maybe.
It's a nice way to end though, isn't it? We like this one.
It is. I'll start, if you don't mind. I think Phillips at Barnsley, for me, has been fantastic. And he's somebody that I would definitely put forward. Did I just nick yours? No. Yes, he is. He is.
You nicked one of them.
Yeah, I genuinely didn't mean to do that. Yeah, I didn't see yours there. Adam Phillips for sure has to be in there. I'm going to use your notes as well. Why not? 4 goals and 3 assists is fantastic. Only 6 goals and 5 assists all season. So, look, hitting form at the right time, running hot at the right time, picking up some important goal contributions in a very good run. I think he definitely deserves a mention. If I had to pick some more, and I think there are a few there across the season, but specifically in this month that have been good all season. I think Chris Martin's carried on being great. O'Neill at Leyton Orient as well has picked up some really important goals and assists across this month as well. But yeah, I know you've got a mention, Tom, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree.
I've got another mention that's not on there as well.
Have you? Okay, go on then, Tom. You give your 2.
Well, Reece the Wind became Lincoln's top goal scorer this month, didn't he? And in terms of overall, and he's been fabulous. I spoke with Jake on the phone earlier on to look at his goal contributions, and on FOTMob, Jack, as you know, there is an amber there's a red rating for players who've had an absolute shocker of a game. There's an amber rating for your middle ground, your 6, maybe low 7s out of 10. Then you get to your 7.5s, your 8s, and you're in the green. And then anything north of that in your blues is kind of your early 8s, late 8s, early 9s, and there's very rarely a 10 on there. Rico, for 5 games, has been in the blues. 8.3, 8.3, 8.1, 8.1, 8.3 match ratings. And he's either scored or assisted in every single game, if I'm right in saying in February. Yes, he has. The last 3, scored 1 against Burton as well. Scored the only goal against Burton and assisted 1 against Fleetwood on the 10th of Feb. So Rico Hackett, massive credit. So glad he's found a home in football. There's a bit of discourse on Twitter. I spoke about it with Nappers last night about kind of Lincoln fans maybe looking for a bite out of Pompey fans biting back, saying he was never good enough for us, etc., etc. Look, Rico's a great player. We know he's a great player. Pompey came a little bit too early for him, in my view. I feel like it's still, and I said this at the time, I remember having the conversation with you that I really hoped the Rico deal was one that benefited both Pompey as a club and Rico as a player. That's exactly what's happened. We've been able to take our business elsewhere. Rico's gone and found a home. Happy days. I know I like to give it to Pompey players a lot in terms of my next pick, but Jack, if Paddy Lane does not win Player of the Month, then we might as well all pack up and go home. We genuinely should. The boy has been immense. So we shouldn't really pack up and go home because technically we are both at home at this present moment in time. There is hot competition for him, but Paddy's been absolutely ridiculously good, Jack. Can you, from an outsider's point of view, I know I love the man dearly, and I know I've met him and spoken to him on a couple of occasions, and we know the love him with Nappers as well, and he's maybe someone who's a little bit closer to T-Lop hearts than others, but what a player.
Yeah, he scored some very important goals and some great goals as well. And yeah, look at it. He's telling now 4 goals in February, 2 assists in there as well. It's a great return, and it puts. I think I mentioned it it's actually you that inspired it, but we mentioned it in a roundup. You've got forwards, not strikers. You've got forwards, not wingers, and that's a massive credit to Paddy Lane and what he's done and how he's not adapted his game, because I think he was a goal scorer before, but definitely not to this level. You know, he's proven he's a goal scorer, but not to this level, and to the point where his output is so good. And you've had good wingers in the past, but have you had wingers that have been able to contribute and provide that output? No. Let's be honest, last season, I think as a stat, it was a high percentage. I'm not going to risk saying the wrong one, but go back and watch the video I did a few months ago on Pompey. I brought up a stat about Colby Bishop, and I think it was, I don't want to guess. It was a very high percentage of goals last season that were Colby Bishop's. This year it doesn't have to be like that.
Pretty much all the goals of Colby. Yeah.
And this season, Colby has scored a good number of goals. Maybe not to the. I don't think he's been as good at this season as he was last season. But again, that's because the goals are being shared elsewhere. I think what Colby does off the ball and away from the goal scoring side of matches is just as important and just as key. But coming back to Paddy Lane, he's taken away that reliance. And again, along with Kamara as well, we shouldn't not mention him. He's also been able to do that. You've got a front three there that's very, very deadly. And you've got attacking midfielders as well that have been great in contributing to that too. So yeah, Paddy Lane been fantastic. I think he definitely has to be in the chat and probably does win it. But yeah, there's been lots of names. And again, give me your thoughts in the comments down below, because this league is maybe not to the incredible standard as it has been in the last couple of seasons, but the quality within individuals, I think has been just as special. So yeah, credit to those and credit to those players. And we'll see you in March. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for chatting and getting involved already. I know I'm speaking in advance there. I'm sure you've been great as always in doing that. Tom, look, I don't want to. We haven't got many left, and it's quite sad, really.
Sad.
We haven't got many left, and again, I'm not going to bring up maybe a potential chat that you thought I was going to ruin earlier. We don't know how many we've got with Pompey in this league because of how good you've been. Let's not go.
We have contingency plans, don't we? We have contingency plans.
But I do get a little bit. And this show has always been about just having a chat. And if you look at the other podcasts that we do and I've done over this season, but really the last couple of years where I feel as though this channel has been going in a different direction, focusing on this division. This series has been the most relaxed that we've ever done, I think. The roundups are quite snappy. The different content we try and produce tends to be quite, not always snappy, but tends to be
linear.
This is a long form. Well, it's a podcast really, which is always nice. And yeah, we're already looking ahead to March. And I think March onwards is where you start going.
March onwards, like it.
Yeah.
Like it.
That's where I start thinking we're getting to the end. And that is good and bad, I think, depending on who you support. But
you said something about players, the quality's still special. I think that's a perfect reflection of this series, isn't it? The quality from you, not going to say me because that's extremely self-indulgent, but
you as well, of course.
It's been great. And thank you for sticking with us right to the end as well, because this is nothing without your company, as we know. We would have this chat, but it'd just be over the phone earlier on today. So we wouldn't have the cameras out, wouldn't have the lights on, and we wouldn't have the video rolling. But it's been a pleasure, and we will see you in March.
Yeah, it's not the final one just yet, of course. We'll see you in March. Take care, everybody. Love you all, and we'll speak soon. Take care.